we had the tablets for the ordering platforms. It was just ding, 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 ding. Like there was 29.7 thousand people trying to order at that time. Also really awkward because we didn't have any chocolate.
No matter where you live, you must have heard of Dubai Chocolate by now. The founder of the viral Fix bar, Sarah Hamouda, is rarely in the spotlight, but she sat down with me for her first long-form interview. When she created the Knafa bar to satisfy a pregnancy craving, little did she know that it would become a global phenomenon, which has inspired hundreds of copycats. In our conversation, she shared her top tips for virality, told me about her meeting with the Crown Prince of Dubai, and revealed what Fix flavor is coming next. Sarah, your chocolate is so famous that it's literally being trafficked. The German police confiscated like 90 kilograms of the stuff in Hamburg airport. Did you ever hear from them?
No, not yet. But you never know. You never know what could happen. God knows if it's Fix.
Did you ever imagine that Fix could become such a global phenomenon?
No, not really. It's been a dream, to be honest. Since the day we've started, the journey's been amazing. Until today. Me and my husband still pinch ourselves. To see where it is today is just mind-blowing, to be honest.
Where did the name, by the way, Dubai Chocolate come from?
So I think Dubai Chocolate, we never really went with it. However, I think what happened is I think the people gave us the name of Dubai Chocolate. And when our videos started to go viral, it was, where do we get this chocolate? Where is this chocolate bar that has a green filling? Where do we get this from? And it was only in Dubai. And so people kept saying the Dubai chocolate. So it's an honor for us to be called the Dubai chocolate. And it stuck with us and we're proud of it.
Have you thought about trademarking the name?
Many times, many times.
Do you remember where you were and what you were doing when the first video went viral on TikTok?
I'll track back a bit. We had a customer. He called me up one day and he was like, why does no one know about your bars? And I was like, oh, I don't know. He's like, you don't do any marketing. I was like, oh, we don't really have budgets. He's like, yeah, but you have such a good product. And he said to me, I'll help you. And I said to him, well, I don't really have marketing budget. And so he's like, I'll work with your budget. I think you could do really well. So I was like, okay, fine. And he was like, what's your budget? And I was like, $500 at that point. And then he was like, it was like an awkward moment of silence. But then Dario was like, yeah, I'll work with it.
Okay.
But then he came back and he said to me, but we need to create content that was going to cost more. And I was like, okay, stop. I don't have money for that. So we went, I went to my friends, I have some close friends, and we just did like videos at home. And one of my friends would edit it and we'll send the content to him and he would do the ads for us. So push like some geo-targeting ads. And it was great. It was doing well. It was doing way better than before. From like one order or two orders per few weeks, it was like a few, like 10 to 15 orders a week.
Yeah, sure. It's like what a 5x, 10x
exactly.
improvement.
We were seeing improvement and then that goes back to marketing is important. But as a small business, we didn't have that kind of budget. And then the video of Marie at that time.
So where were you and what were you doing when you realized?
It was, she did the video in November and that was it. Life went on. And it was towards end of December 2023 where we were like, what's going on? Like, we'd open Instagram or TikTok, and it was mental. It was just like followers, messages, and it wasn't just the UAE at this point. It was people from around the world, like the US, Europe, Korea, Japan, and we were just so confused. How does everyone know about this? And I knew Dario wasn't like targeting those audience. It was just like within the UAE. So at that point, we're like, okay, what is it? What's going on? And then we'd see that video getting reposted and we're like, oh my God. Even I remember reaching out to Maria and being like, what's going on? She's like, I don't know.
Because she had filmed it a month prior.
Yeah, a month prior. Everyone forgot about it.
Something snapped and happened about a month later. How did you feel at that moment?
I'll tell you, I remember very well. being in the kitchen. So at that time, I had 2 on my team, and being in that kitchen, and I had 2 friends who were here from the UK, and it was New Year's Eve. I was like, guys, like forget, you don't have to work New Year's Eve. It's fine. Like, everyone chillax. And then we went to the kitchen, and then we had the tablets for the ordering platforms. It was just ding, 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 ding. Like it was not stopping, and it was also really awkward because we didn't have any chocolate, so we couldn't even serve these people.
You want to celebrate, but then also then it's the sinking feeling of how am I going to
at that point we thought there's something wrong with the app. Like thought maybe
it just glitched.
We'd restart. Yeah. So we'd restart it, and no, it was orders coming through, and like the team was like, huh, what's going on? And I was like, no, wait, like, what's going on? And then we check, and it's like, we're going into hundreds of orders within those minutes, and we had no chocolate.
But this is like every entrepreneur's dream, right?
Yeah,
your product just went insanely viral. You got all the orders, but you kind of like, what were you feeling at that moment?
Like you said, it was the feeling was unreal, but it was also a moment of like panic because we have nothing to serve, because at that point we were making the chocolates per order. So like when you order, it'd have a 3-hour time slot that we would deliver. So they would make them on the day, and
each bar individually.
Each bar. And so when you're like getting hundreds and hundreds of orders, and like we didn't even have enough chocolate, like the chocolate itself wasn't available, and so. At that point, we I called my suppliers and everyone in the supply chain. I was like, what, we need this, and we tried our best, and it was difficult because also we had to adjust, right? We didn't know, we had to actually close that day and make those chocolates for those orders, and then kind of like pivot and be like, what are we doing?
Yeah. You have to throttle the demand, basically.
Yeah, but also it was like, maybe it was just that day,
You never know. It could pop and then just vanish.
Yeah, it's not about storing tons of chocolate and then not selling them. But then day after day, that was happening, and it was increasing.
When did you realize that it's more than just a
I'll tell
couple-day
you,
pop?
I remember this day very well. I had another job. I was still working in my other job, and I was on a flight back from Qatar. And at this time, it was February. We had already pivoted to the 5 p.m. slot.
So you had a slot at 5 p.m.
5 p.m. We'll open for orders, and it'll be next day or 2-day delivery slot. Right?
So you limit the order intake until just that 5 p.m. window.
Exactly, and that's many reasons. Reasons being a small team, not enough chocolate, and just being able to fulfill the bars in the best quality we can.
It's also marketing genius.
Well, yeah, people do say that, but that's the thing. It was never a marketing thing being
applied. It wasn't
applied.
a ploy, basically. No. It was like out of necessity.
We were just pushed into it, and it worked for us. But again, back to that question is, I remember coming back on a flight, and at that point, I would open the timings of the shop to start delivery, and I opened it before my flight, and I closed it, and everything was fine.
Yeah, it's just Qatar.
Yeah, it's an hour flight. I arrive in Dubai. I'm still on the plane, and I open my phone, and my phone is frozen. Like the emails are not stopping, and I have a screenshot from this. There was 29.7 thousand people trying to order at that time.
Almost 30,000 people tried to order within the span of a Dubai-Doha 1 hour flight.
I still have that screenshot of that, the graph of that, and that link had broken. So there was, people had ordered, people's orders had been accepted, people's orders had not been accepted. It was a whole...
It's a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess. Yeah. And it was a lot. It was a lot that time, going back to that feeling of like, you feel like you're letting the customers down, you don't want to lose opportunities. It was difficult. It was a very emotional ride. A lot of people did think it was a marketing stunt. And so I'm thinking...
I feel like if you only knew.
Honestly, if you only knew, it wasn't a big brand.
Yeah. And so take us back. You had almost 30,000 people trying to place an order in the span of 1 hour.
Yeah.
and you've just landed back in Dubai,
Yeah.
and you have to deal with this.
Yeah.
What was the first thing that you did?
Well, the first thing I did was call my husband and have a panic attack. Probably blame him for it, but
Well, I mean, your husband being your husband and being your business partner.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I don't think he also understood like how bad it was, because I had the logins for my Instagram, and I was seeing the messages from people like, and it was messages from people around the whole world. So you're like, what's going on? I'm trying to deal with this crash,
Yeah.
and people are really angry and really upset.
Yeah. So what did you guys do together?
so-
What was what happened next?
What happened next was obviously, we made sure that the provider had sent anything that was needed to be refunded and sorted. But the biggest part was, connecting back with these customers. And for me, that was important. It wasn't, to kind of tell people, sorry about what happened. We don't want them not to come again, because people were frustrated.
People were trying to
They
buy
were
your
trying-
product, right?
Yeah, and I would feel exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like, who do you think you are?
And you
Like,
get one chance at that, right? They're never going to come back unless you
Exactly.
mend with them.
Exactly.
What did you do? How did you mend?
So it was really important for me, like from day one, Fix is all about the community. We used to do community events, word of mouth. People will take, gifts and stuff. So it was all about the community. And so for me, it was really, really important to communicate that.
Now, with perfect hindsight, seeing what happened in terms of the viral moment and the growth that happened afterwards, you were trying to figure it out as it was happening. But now if somebody else finds themselves in a similar situation to where you were, what advice would you have for them?
It's a lot of advice. I know it maybe sound cliche, but I think believing in yourself is really important. Just go with your gut, to be honest. And I think, you just go with the journey. Like, I've been advised many times, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it's, I take always advice and I listen. But I feel that a lot of the stuff is also with your gut, do what you feel. No one's going to understand the brand as much as we do.
And I was going to ask you if there's one thing that you felt that you really did right in that moment when everything just blew up and you were trying to figure it all out at the same time.
I think our journey it's been quite intense. And I think, some people may have said, why didn't you pivot straight away into spending X amount of money and building, warehouses, etc.
You could have built an empire. You could
Exactly.
have raised a bunch of capital and kind of
Exactly.
immediately done it.
I think what we've done is right. I think, it's about expanding slowly.
Why did you make that decision?
Many reasons, but mainly because I didn't want to ruin the brand or the product.
You're like the brand steward, really. It feels. I mean, it is. I mean, it's a real situation where you have crazy demand, right?
Yeah.
A bunch of opportunity, and I can imagine the voices that are like, just throw some more fuel into that fire. You can create this incredible empire.
Yeah.
But you're like, no, wait. I want.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. We could have, right? But and then, maybe capitalize on that moment, and that was it. But I didn't want to be like that. I wanted the brand to stay longevity.
Yeah.
And I
endured.
wanted this to become a legacy to leave. Like, I didn't want it to just be, a viral moment and that was it.
And I wanted to ask you about this whole question of a lot of times you have these pops on social media, something goes viral, maybe for a moment, maybe for a day or a few weeks or a few months, but inevitably that initial pop subsides. How do you build an enduring brand?
I think it goes back to having the right people around you. Honestly, we have a great team. And I think, having a team who believes in the product, believes in the vision, that's what's most important. And that's what's important to Fix, is the longevity of it. Is, we didn't want to be just the viral moment of, the viral moment with this chocolate bar. It's more than a chocolate, it's an experience. And so for me, and everyone at Fix, it's about, taking those steps to make Fix stay for life.
And it's also inspired a lot of people to, follow or copy exactly what you've done, right? I mean, it's probably the fastest just proliferation of copycats.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
I think you just reminded me, I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago with the lawyers, and it is one thing that was said, especially with food, this is probably the most copied, infringed product out there.
In the history of food.
It's a hard one, to be honest. People being creative and doing what they want with it, that's fine. But I think when it comes to the brand itself and infringing the brand, for me, that's what's most important.
And do you keep track of all these copycats?
Yeah, the team definitely does keep track. They're.
How many are there?
I think until a couple of weeks ago, the last time I was told we were over 200.
Over 200 copycats of
Yeah.
Fix.
When we're talking about mainly infringers.
And then obviously the Inspire Dubai.
And then, then you have the Dubai chocolate. There's Dubai chocolate that.
Which is probably uncountable.
Yeah, that we don't count. But the infringers are the ones that we focus with.
Have you ever thought about trademarking Fix?
So we have trademark Fix within the UAE and several other countries around the world. We did that from the very beginning, to be honest. I would say maybe around 2.5 years ago, we trademarked the brand, the name. And so that helps us be protected in different countries. It's all about protecting the brand. It really hurts us, when we see someone's tagged us in a Fix and it's not Fix.
It's not Fix. And I mean, you've said that you encourage kind of homegrown or small businesses to try their take.
Yeah.
And have you seen any that have, been inspiring or that you've thought were creative?
No, I think we've seen so many different things. Whether it's a crepe, whether it's a drink, whether it's a donut. I think we've left people to be creative, and I think it's nice to see what people have come up with, and it's also nice to receive messages. We receive so many messages from people who either starting or closing their businesses, and they implemented the kunafa pistachio into one of their desserts, and it's taken off for them, and I think that's great.
So Sara, you have to tell us, how do you take $500 initial marketing budget and create a viral brand? What are your top 3 tips?
One would be product. So whether it's a product or a service, I think nailing that is important. And quality, the quality of your ingredients or services that you offer, and doing as much as you can. And the third would be your faith to God. You can put everything into it. You can work hard, believe in yourself, and leave the rest to God. I think it's really important to surround yourself with great people, positivity, because it does get tough. But when it gets tough and you have a lot of negative energy, you can make wrong decisions. So, during the journey, there are negative things that could happen. Support yourself with a great team, great family and friends. And I think that's really, really important.
Tell me about your team.
Oh, my team, bless them. We started with 2 people, and now we're a team of 50. Each person is an important asset to Fix. What I like about it's like a family. With Fix, there's a lot of things. I know you get the end product, but there's a huge supply chain that works behind the scenes, whether it's packaging, graphic design, the chocolate bars themselves, the bakers, the chocolatiers, cleaning, social media, partnerships, everything.
So much behind
There's so much.
Yeah. Now, you and Yezen are a married couple, business partners and co-founders, which is a rare phenomenon. I have to ask you about, how you manage that.
Yeah, of course. Being a married couple and being together every day is intense. But we try to separate. To be honest, in that it took time to kind of understand. We're working together and being parents and husband and wife at home. So it did take time to understand that. But I wouldn't want anyone else. To be honest, he understands the brand and cares for it to grow as much as I do. And
Yeah.
And so that dynamic works for us.
And you've like put your money into it. And
Exactly.
like it's almost like another child.
It is another one of our kids. There are days, I'm not going to lie to you, it's difficult. I think communication is key in anything. And also everyone, each individual doing what they're best at and bringing them together. I think that's really important.
And you have 2 children together. We have 3, and actually I must say that this interview is like the one guest where all 3 of my kids are extremely excited about. So they've been asking me every day when are you?
When is it?
And it's so it's never easy, and there's a lot of challenge in bringing up kids. How do you 2 manage it, being also both entrepreneurs?
Yeah, no, especially our kids are quite young at the moment. It is difficult, but we try our best to find the time. You're constantly on call with work, etc. But I still do the pickups. My husband does the drop-offs.
Yep.
Trying to be as
That's how we do it too.
Yeah, sometimes changes depending on the day, but those things are quite important for us to stay connected with them. And because of the fast pace, I think you're in Dubai. Everything is fast paced, right? Every time I speak to someone, it's always someone's on the run to do something. We live in an environment, and I think sometimes we do get really busy, but like we do kind of go back and be like, okay, this is the time with our kids, put them to bed, the whole, as normal. I think for us, it's honestly, whenever we win something or a prize, like they get so excited. And I think that's something that really means like coming from your kids, that, hopefully the hard work's paying off.
What did it take you to get Fix off the ground?
All our savings. Like, honestly, we're both working parents. We've been here in Dubai 10 years. And at that point, we were here, I think I would say 6 years. And we were saving to buy a property, our first house. And that didn't happen.
So instead of the property, you put it into chocolate.
I went to Yedin and I said to him, like we want to do this and stuff. And, how much can we afford? And it was just, we had a little deposit for
a down payment on a house.
And then there was a point at like, I think it was 1.5 years to 2 years later, like, I wanted to give up. I wanted to give up. And I said to him, I saw him, I was like, I don't think this is working. Like,
throwing the towel.
We have no more money. There's no more money to put in. And we were very much against like taking loans or anything. I didn't want to ask anyone for a penny at that point. Like none of our parents, it was just like, this is something, it was a passion, right? And we started from from home, from the dining room. And so then moving slowly to a small kitchen, etc. But there was no return, right? And I sat with him and I said to him, there's nothing else to take, And he said to me, listen, like we were still both working our day jobs. He's like, no, you need to push. And he's like, as long as we can put our kids through school, we'll carry on.
All in.
Just carry on. And I promise you, I think it was a few months later that things changed.
You were like on the precipice.
Yeah.
You were like on the edge and you were just about to throw in the towel, but then you just pushed through. And this wasn't your first entrepreneurial foray. You had like an events company back in like university days. I guess where do you think this kind of entrepreneurial drive come from? Because at the same time you worked many years in kind of corporate jobs, right? Yeah. So where do you think that the drive has its roots?
I think I just grew up wanting to do more, regarding like, I was studying engineering and just the drive to do more, I guess. Like engineering wasn't something I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
It was one of just to tick the boxes. But starting something that back in the UK or in London when I was living there, there was a huge Middle Eastern community. We didn't have concerts and I thought, why not? Yeah. Let's do it. And we did. And it was great at that time.
What did that first experience teach you?
It taught me not to spend all my money. That's one thing. But yeah.
Careful with your cash.
Yeah, careful with your cash. also being very young and then being successful at something at a very young age and having that cash and, just spending it and enjoying, I think, that's something I would have definitely probably done differently now.
Now, Fix has come a long way and is now really an ambassador even for Dubai at large. I know that recently you were at the World Government Summit here in Dubai and had an amazing opportunity. Could you tell us about meeting the Crown Prince?
Oh, honestly, that was one of those moments, it was amazing. Such a humble, down-to-earth person,
What did he say to you?
The first thing he said was, "What have you done to the world?"
Wow.
And I think, what's important is that, leadership, honestly, recognizing like what's happened and recognizing the journey, etc. And for us at Fix, that moment to be recognized by leadership is really important. And it was an amazing feeling. Honestly, for us, a wow moment, seeing him and him acknowledging, the Dubai chocolate, is something, you would never dream of.
And that's one of the things that I think makes Dubai special.
Yeah.
It's such a mixing and melting pot of so many different people.
Exactly.
And then, but there is this this pride and recognition from the leadership as well, right?
And I think for us, we're proud. We're proud that, we've done this. We're proud that it's come from the UAE. We're proud that, it's called the Dubai chocolate, and it's recognized everywhere.
Now, Dubai is known usually for importing luxury. I mean, here you're an example of one who's creating it and exporting it to the world. Do you think this is the beginning of something of more of a made in Dubai that could reach the rest of the world?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think, in Dubai and in the UAE, there's a lot of great homegrown brands, and I think we're seeing a difference in F&B or any other product in UAE that can go outside the UAE. And I think, there's a lot of creativity and support from the government also to encourage more entrepreneurs to do that.
What's coming next for Fix? Any announcements for this Ramadan?
One of our bars are coming back. It's called the You Carrick Me Up. And one of the reasons it's coming back is because a lot of people have asked for it back. And so we are proudly bringing it back and can't wait for everyone to try it because it's been a while. So Carrick, in this region, it's a tea that people are familiar with, strong on tea notes, cardamom notes and saffron notes. And so, especially if you live in UAE, everyone loves a carrick. So we've put our own twist to it and put it in our Fix bars. So
wow. Okay, great. You heard it here. That's amazing. Any plans for global expansion or exposure in this next period?
Yeah, so I think in 2025 is, a year where we as Fix want to go to different places, new cities. But one thing that's happening that's quite close is we're popping up in South by Southwest in Austin. So we're really excited about that. So we'll be there for I think about 5 to 7 days. So we're really excited about it. This will be our first time outside the UAE. And, to be honest, we want to connect with the US community there. We have a lot of people in the US who've been asking for Fix to come. So, it would be really nice to connect with everyone out there. But yeah, 2025 is about popping up in different cities.
And what's your hopes for Fix in this next 5 years or so?
I think we will be going into different cities. And that is the aim, we will be creating everything within the UAE, but I think as time goes by, we will be trying to reach more and more people around the globe.
From Dubai to the world.
Dubai to the world, yeah.
I'd love to wrap up with a quick fire round of questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What's your personal favorite Fix flavor?
Honestly, right now, it would be the Catch Me If You Can. It's the new signature blondie chocolate. With caramelized pecan and biscuit for the crunch. I would say that is my top favorite at the moment.
The weirdest way you've seen someone eat a Fix chocolate?
A Japanese chef cutting it with one of the sharpest knives and serving it with rice as a sushi. I don't know if it actually tastes good.
Most unexpected place you've seen Fix show up.
Real ones or fake ones?
You pick.
A fake Fix, like, with art branding, would be in a random newsagent shop in Zurich that's selling, scum and some snacks. And we walk in and we see Fix, but it's not Fix. And it's the Dubai chocolate.
So it actually had Fix branding.
It had complete Fix branding.
Full fake.
Full fake and posters on their shop saying the Dubai chocolate Fix is here. And we walked in wanting to check, like, how did this happen? But yeah, we walked in and we were like, I was telling the guy, is this the real one? He was like, yes, it's the real one. I think that was the first time
Where you pulled that card.
We pulled that card, to be honest. It was an awkward conversation after that.
Awkward conversations are good sometimes. What's next on your personal bucket list outside of work?
Quite a bit. We've been wanting to take a break for a very long time, which we have not done. So it would be to do that.
What would you do?
Right now, if you ask me, I would love to be on a beach in Bali.
No dinging orders, nothing.
Nothing.
All right. Describe Fix chocolate in 3 words.
Freaking incredible experience.
All right.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much, Sara, for coming out to the show.
Thank you so much.